really didn't have anyone really didn't have anyone to support me through that journey. And so I thought, well, there's no way I can afford to go to college. Like my parents can't pay for it, and I don't know where to apply for financial aid. FAFSA, if you're undocumented, you can't apply for it. So I decided, like, there's no choice. I'm going to go to community college first just to keep my education going. I knew I could transfer. And so once I got there, I reached out for help. I, with from the counselors at the community college, figured out the transfer process. And after 2 years at community college, I transferred to UC Berkeley. So I did not apply out of high school. I actually did, and I got rejected. And so I'm really glad that my life took me down this other path, because if I had gone on to a university from high school, it wouldn't have been Berkeley. I never received an acceptance. I'm glad my life took me down this other path because I had an amazing experience. Um, Public schools like Berkeley and others are competitive. So a lot of it was major, what major you choose. For me was sociology. A lot of it is GPA, but also I think especially relevant for people of color, students of color, is your story, right? Like I put in a lot of work in my personal statements, and I think it really paid off because it helped. I would like to think it helped me stand out from like literally 80, 90,000 other applications these schools are getting.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Your story is definitely what makes a mark in applications. So you definitely made a great point there. And I'm happy, it seems like it was a little bit of a tumultuous process, but I'm happy that it brought you to the place we are today because you're glowing. So that equates to everything's going well for you, girl. So my next question following up from that is, how was life when you were an undergrad, you're a first gen student, but you were also in a predominantly white institution and you're a woman of color? Like, how was that experience?
Yeah. So I'll talk about Berkeley because I think for community college, it was mostly people of color, right? Like if you think about the demographics of people going to these different institutions, people of color and low income people are way more likely to go to community college, right? And so I felt comfortable and nothing ever felt out of place because it was like the people I grew up around, basically. But once I got to Berkeley, it was a complete culture shock. After moving from Bangladesh to California, my parents only ever lived in LA. We never moved. And I lived in a basically very like predominantly brown immigrant neighborhood. So again, everyone around me looked like me. And then I moved up to San Francisco and no one really looked like me there. And I think that on top of the fact, it felt like were a lot wealthier than I was. And so that was a huge culture shock. So on one end, I was like, getting the sense of like, I don't belong here. I don't know how I got in. It must have been a mistake. That on top of feeling like I'm one of the only people of my background there from that specific socioeconomic status, there was a lot of just feeling out of place for a while. But what you do is you find your people, right? You find other people who make you feel like you're not so alone and that you belong. People who also have the same insecurities as you, people who also have the same doubts, people who come from your background, your community. So I ended up with a lot of friends who were, first gen transfer students. They were immigrants too. They were low income. They were undocumented. And that made me feel a little bit more like, okay, I have found my people and I feel less like I'm an imposter.
Wow. Oh, you definitely said some real feelings right there because I felt the same when I was in a PWI. But we're gonna get to imposter syndrome because that's a very important like topic, especially as people of color to talk about. But I wanted to ask, how should a high schooler, who's about to be a first gen student in college, how should they prepare like for it? Like say, I mean, they already applied, okay, we got into college, like what do you do from there?
So I won't talk too much about like how do you get to a college, right? Because I think that can be like a 5-hour topic of like what are the things you should be doing, and I'm happy to refer you to resources that will help you with that. But I think the best thing you can do to prepare is just know, like, I don't think there is any preparing, right? Like don't feel like over the summer there's like homework you have to do or you have to read a bunch of books to prepare. Like the best advice I can give is if you can take some time off the summer before college, right? If you are able to not work, don't do that, right? Or if you do have to work, that's okay, but don't put that pressure on yourself that I need to go take like 5 classes over the summer to prepare myself for college because like it's going to be so hard, because you're just going to get burnt out. I think I see a lot of students of ours, like through First Gen Empower, where people are just like, oh, I'm taking like 3 classes in community college and I'm doing this, this, and this because I want to like hit the ground running. But then what happens is fall comes around and you're just like, I'm tired because all I did this summer was like study for exams and like, not give yourself time. That's my first thing. The second one would be once you, assuming that, folks here may be seniors, once you know where you want to end up, like going, or you're exploring your choices, this is more of a spring semester thing, like look into the colleges and the options that you have. What do they offer? And I don't mean like your major. Yes, like they might offer political science or biology, or whatever you're looking for. But as a person of color, as a first gen student, what support systems does that school have for you? Do they have a first gen group? Do they have a center for first generation low income students? A lot of schools do that. If you're an immigrant, do they have any sort of like support for immigrants? I know a lot of universities and school systems have free legal services. Like they will connect you to an immigration lawyer who can help you with that process, right? And that's free because immigration lawyers are insanely expensive. So you need to dig further than what majors are available and like look into, will you belong once you get there? And that means looking at the research and the support systems, the resources and support systems in place.
Yeah, definitely. You just said a lot of gems there. Like first taking care of yourself, like in the summer, and looking for the resources you need to help you have a good 4 years in college. Especially as a first gen student for sure. I did want to ask specifically, like, what specific resources should students be looking for? Um, I know different colleges, it may have a different name, but like generally.
Yeah, so I feel like you could kind of categorize them in lots of different buckets. So the one of them is academic support. I want to say most schools have academic support. So like tutoring, right? Can they connect you to someone who can help you through the just like help you through whatever classes that you're struggling with, because like it can be hard, right? College is a completely different ball game than high school is. So that's the first thing, like academic support. But then mental health services, I think, is one that I just truly did not think about when I was an undergrad. I was like, I'm fine. I don't need therapy. But the truth is, I think everyone could benefit from therapy, even if you feel like you are doing okay, even if it's just to like dump your thoughts out into another person who can help you process them. Like, don't think of therapy as like, I have anxiety or depression, I need to go get help. That could be true, but it could also just be, man, I'm feeling really stressed out because midterms are coming up. I wish I had some ways of processing the feelings I have. Therapy and counseling can help with that too. And so I would say look into whether your school offers like a bare minimum, like, 5 to 10 like counseling sessions. A lot of schools do this. Look to see if you're a first and low income student, if they have like a food pantry, if they have scholarships and grants to help you pay for books. I know some classes you need clickers. It's like a little remote, and basically like you'll do a quiz during class and you'll have A, B, C, D, E. You have to choose one and you click it on your remote, basically. So it's like on like quizzes that you take during class, and there's a machine that you need to take it. Those are like $70, I think. I never bought one because Berkeley would give them out for free if you were part of their EOP program. And EOP, if anyone is familiar, is the Educational Opportunity Program, and it's specifically for first and low income students. A lot of different states have its own version. I feel like EOP is a very California thing, but your state might have its own. Look to see if that's something you can get in, tap into when you're in college. So money, right? So like very broadly, will the school help you pay for your basic survival, like things like food and rent and textbooks? Look to see if you have support for mental health, because that's one that I think is easy to forget. And then look to see if you have academic support.
Uh, that all those things are completely true. All those resources, and like they're pretty much in every college. So like you won't miss it. So please be sure to get those resources. And one thing I also wanted to ask is, I feel being the first one to actually get into college, like I said, is exciting, but it's nerve wracking. And I think what makes it nerve wracking is the pressure, like societal pressure, but also family pressure, friends pressure. I could only imagine like applying like for all these things and like applying for scholarships and making sure you're doing well in school. And then you're also supporting yourself. And then, you're maybe you have parents that are very like, okay, we're counting on you. You got to make sure you get through this. We believe in you. We're proud of you. Although those things are nice, that's a lot of pressure for someone who's 17, 18 years old to have. So how did you relieve that pressure for yourself?
Oh man, I'm still struggling. It's funny because like I'm in the East Coast right now, and my parents call me every day to check in, and like they don't mean this, right? But they will say something where I'm like, oh, like I am not in law school just for myself. I am in law school for like my community, like for my family, and so it's hard, right? Like that pressure is intense, especially if you are expected to be your family's primary caretaker, like financial caretaker in the future, because that means you're not getting your degree just for you. The job you will get is not just for you, it's to take care of some other people. um what I will say is like you have to learn, and I still struggle with this. I'm not like, I feel like I don't practice what I'm preaching right now, but you have to learn to separate your values from what your family expects or your community expects from you, right? They might expect you to have a high paying job or like a degree in something. I don't know, like I feel like STEM, right? Like in immigrant communities, I can say for me at least, people expect you to be like engineers and doctors, and I'm like, I don't want to be either of those things. But I didn't know how to separate those values from my own, and that caused a lot of anxiety for me and a lot of like doubting my self-worth. I grew up thinking, like in high school, I was like, I am so dumb, like why can't I figure out like math and science? Like it just, those things just don't click in my brain, and I thought it was because something was wrong with me. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized my brain is so much better suited to social sciences and writing and like social justice oriented thinking and things like that, right? It's not that I'm dumb, it's just that I am not, my strength is lies elsewhere, and those are not the things that my family necessarily values, and that's not their fault. So think about what you want. Do those things align with what your family and your community expects of you? And as much as you can, try to like align them, or to the extent that you can, prioritize your own values. So if you need to, like, if there's some sense of like you have to be a doctor or an engineer, right? But that's not where you feel like your passion lies. I'm not gonna go tell you go do all like chase your passion. I feel like sometimes that's just not like feasible for everybody. But what can you do outside of your classes to pursue the things that you love? If you really love like sports or arts, like you love painting and drawing and things like that, but you feel like you can't make a life or like a living out of it, what can you do outside of classes to pursue those things? There is a million extracurricular activities in college that you can pursue, right? Like you can still make those things a part of your life, even if that's not your future career. So I'm going to be a lawyer one day, but truly like my passion lies in doing stuff like this. Like I wish I could be like in another world, Arabi is a college counselor, right? Like I wish that's what I was doing. Not to say I don't want to be a lawyer, but like my passion and my heart lies in this kind of work. So that's what I do. I do it on the side. Like I don't think it's my full-time job, but it's a huge part of what I do. So how can you still make it a part of your life and not sacrifice the things that you care about? Sorry, that was like a long rant, but I like, that's something I deeply care about. And I feel like students think when they're young, you have to sacrifice the things that you love to pursue like a more practical or financially feasible career, but I don't think that's always true.
No, like literally everything you said, like I relate to it wholeheartedly as someone trying to be a doctor who has immigrant parents telling me, "Yeah, I'm so proud of you. We're counting on you, girl. We're counting on you to save us one day when we get old or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, that's nice, but geez, then give me a break." So, and like having other passions, like genuinely that genuinely keeps you going. So don't drop those, even if you are in once you get to college, like you could still make it work. So definitely felt you on everything that you said. And y'all could ask your questions in the chat because we're gonna go to the Q&A. But before, so as y'all drop your questions, I'm just gonna ask my last question. And you touched on imposter syndrome or imposterism before. And for those who don't know what that is, that's pretty much when you feel like you don't belong, like the Among Us game, you're an imposter or whatever. Like you just genuinely don't feel like you deserve being at this school, or you don't belong with this certain group of people. And that's very common for students of color, especially if you're in a predominantly white institution, because society is not set up where most of us occupy, or go to advanced education or occupy these type of spaces. So how did you overcome that for yourself? Or if even if you didn't, like how do you manage those feelings?
Yeah, I still have not overcome it. So again, it's like actively going through the things I'm talking about. But I think one thing that you need, like, and this is like the easiest thing to forget, I feel like I will hear my friends talk about like the things that they're doing, right? Like the resume building stuff, like internships and jobs and like extracurricular activities. They're president of this club and they're doing this research position. What I hear, and I see this in myself too, is like you think your worth, your self-worth is caught up. Like it's like you think your self-worth is directly correlated to those accomplishments, right? But they're just the things that you do. They're not who you are. You are not your resume. You just do the things and then you list them on your resume, right? I think that's really easy to forget because like the world or at least the professional world makes you feel like you need to keep going and always doing things and always having like 3 4 extracurriculars next to school, and I think that really like fosters imposter syndrome. So my advice would be you have to constantly remind yourself, I am more than the things I do. I am more than my major, I'm more than my degree, and I'm more than my extracurricular activities. You are your values, you are the things that you're passionate about, you are the people you surround yourself with, right? Like those are the things that make up who you are. um and find other people who like really uplift you, right? Like I actively, like, if I think about the people in my life who are like my closest friends, these are the people who make me feel really good about myself, right? Like they're the people who I feel like are excited when I have something big happening for me. The people who remind me, wait, like I'm not just a law student, I'm also just a person who has interests. And things that I like to do outside of that. So community, you have to find it, right? I think that's hard, especially in college. If you go to a really big one, like Berkeley was like 40,000 people, right? It's tough to find community, but a lot of the times you find it through the clubs that you join, and things like that. Find people who make you feel like, you know what, like I feel accepted for who I am. And I'll go back to what I was saying about like, you have to remind yourself of your values outside of other people's. Don't get wrapped up in the things you hear out like around you. So like when people start applying for internships over the summer, right? If you get rejected to something, that doesn't mean you're not qualified. It just means like 500 other people applied, and truly at some point it's just luck that you didn't get selected or you did get selected. And I can say that as someone who now hires interns for my nonprofit, right? Like there will be times where like there will be 10 resumes and they're the exact same to me in terms of quality. Like they're all amazing. We have to make a choice and we make one, and it's sort of like random, right? So it's not you. It's not that you're unqualified or not worthy. It's just that sometimes there's competition and things that are completely beyond you. So you have to remind yourself of that. You are more than your rejections and acceptances as well.
That's a word right there. I don't even have anything to add because everything you said was spot on. Uh, we do have someone who posed a little dilemma in the chat. I don't know if you could see it or if you want me to read it.
Yeah, I see it. I can generalize it a little bit to like, you know, parents who don't understand the things that you want to do. And I feel like it's a very common thing in first gen families or immigrant families. Like, you know, I know a lot of students whose parents are just like, what do you mean you want to go to college? You have to go work and make money for the family. There's a very common sentiment because they just want you to go support the family. And you know, they might want you to join the military or something like that because for them it's some sense of like prestige and honor, and they don't feel the same way about college. I think that's pretty common, especially in immigrant communities. So to that I will say like it's tough, but one thing I tried to do when I decided to try to convince my parents I don't want to be a doctor was like, I'm bad at it. First of all, like I wouldn't qualify and I am just like not good at it. It's not my fault, but it's true. I'm not a math and science person. So that's one approach you can take. The other one is just like highlighting the benefits of the thing that you do want to do. So if you want to continue going to college, right, and you don't want to join like the workforce or the military or whatever, highlight why college is the right option, right? Like it is a path often, especially if you're again low income, like to stability and security, right? Like a degree will open doors for you when like people who don't have college degrees, they're not in those spaces where those doors open for you, right? Like you meet people in college who can connect you to opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have. So like professional opportunities, jobs that will not just pay well, but also like have some sort of security there. You can highlight the fact that like that because the economy, like the American economy is moving so fast and at the sort of like the direction it's going at, you need some sort of baseline experience. And it could either be like a college degree or it could be you have some sort of certification, right? Like you go to trade school to become a mechanic or a, you know, like a paramedic or something like that. So degrees and certifications, those papers have value in terms of money and it has value in terms of job security. Those things matter, right? Like you want to be able to take care of yourself financially and your family as well, potentially. So I would try to highlight the practical stuff, not just that this is what I want to do. I want to go to college. Like that's my life's passion. I feel like a lot of times immigrant parents don't understand. Like, what do you mean passion? Like go make money for the family. You have to give like very pragmatic, like let's weigh the benefits of both of your options. Look, this one has way more benefits than the option that you're posing, mom and dad. So very pragmatic, practical, like arguments like that. I would try to stay away from for me at least, like if I tell my parents, I love this, please let me pursue blah, 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 they would not understand because like passion is not something they had the privilege of pursuing when they were young, right? Like either because there were no opportunities around them, they might be too poor, whatever it might be. That's a privilege our generation has, but you have to speak their language literally and speak in ways that they will understand. So that's, I don't know if that's very helpful, but that's one thing I think you could try doing.
Thank you so much, Arabi. Does anyone else have any questions? You could put in the chat or say it aloud.
Thank you so much for that, by the way. You dropped a lot of gems. And even though I graduated, I really deeply felt some of the things that you were describing from different immigrant communities. I think no matter what type of community that you come from, particularly across immigrants, parents kind of have the same dynamic towards their children, whether you're from Africa or Asia or wherever really, that all the parents usually have the same response to things. But we are also a very different generation, I guess, of students, and how passion integrates into success and security looks different for us than it did previous generations. And you highlighted that super well. I wish somebody had told that to me, honestly, maybe freshman, sophomore year. And it took like a lot of trial and error to get through. So I know somebody else said they can see that in themselves. I feel like a lot of us probably do too. It's something we're all like working through individually, which is why we're all here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, and including myself, like we go into college thinking, oh, like I am going to study this one thing and that's all I can do. Like there is no other space for anything else. That is the furthest thing from truth, right? Like college, for the most part, afford you so many opportunities to get involved with whatever you want, literally whatever you want. So like to give an example, I majored in sociology and like that's pretty broad. It's like it's just about it's the study of society. That could mean a whole bunch of different things. It has a social justice component to it. We talk a lot about like poverty and how things affect low income communities, but it was nothing specific to what I felt like I cared about, which was human rights and immigration issues, right? Like those were the things that I was like, oh man, like that's what gets me all fired up. And so outside of my classes, what I did was I tried to find clubs and like research positions where I could do that kind of work. So I ended up being a research assistant at this place called Human Rights Center, where I got to work with like the UN and other nonprofits and do human rights investigations. I loved that. That was not part of my major. Like it had nothing to do with sociology, but I got to do it because who's going to say no? Like college is so flexible. You can incorporate whatever you want into your schedule and be fine with it. I know people who were like pre-med, like who knew they were going to go into medical school. And so like their schedule was completely booked with STEM classes, right? Like math and science classes. But then on the side, they would take classes that they just took for fun. Like I had a friend who took salsa was a class at Berkeley. So like she loved dancing. So like she spent all of her free time just like going to salsa events and just like dancing her heart out because that's what she liked to do. And like that was like her thing for 2 years. Like she became really good and like would go to all of these like really professional like competitions and events, right? She's gonna be a doctor. She is actually in med school right now. So my point with that is like it's so random. Like you wouldn't think you could make time to do something you just truly love to do, but you absolutely can. So just keep that in mind. Don't let anyone tell you or make you think that like I picked a major, that's it. There's like no way out of that little hole I dug myself into. That's just not true.
Thank you so much, Arabi. That I don't, like I said, once again, I have nothing to add because you perfectly said everything that any expert would say. There is one more question in the chat. Someone asked, what was your main method for paying for college?
So I'll talk about both Berkeley and then I'll also talk about like law school right now because it's completely different. So in undergrad, I was very fortunate. I'm a California resident. And so if you're low income, you get pretty good financial aid at the public university. So I went to Berkeley basically for free. Like I got enough scholarships and not just like, when I say scholarships, I mean like scholarships based on your family's income, so need based, not like based on your grades or anything like that. So I got really lucky there. But once I got to college, I worked part-time. So I had two different research positions that, helped me pay for like my day-to-day expenses, like rent and groceries. But I also applied to so many scholarships. Like starting from community college to even now in law school, I have kept applying, even for like $1,000, $500, it can definitely add up. So I would say look for scholarships. First Gen, like our nonprofit has tons of resources for applying to scholarships and looking for them. So I would recommend checking those out and reach out to us if you have questions. But there are big scholarships that can help you pay for a lot, like full tuition. But then those are really competitive, and I don't recommend only applying to those. I would say also look for smaller scholarships that can help you pay partially for like your tuition or for your living expenses. I'll now talk about law school. Law school is a completely different ballgame. Most graduate programs, graduate means you got your bachelor's degree and then you're going to get another degree to be like a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or social worker, things like that. I am basically affording almost all of it through loans because that's just like, it depends on what school you go to, but I would say that's the most common thing. Like most people I know are going to grad school through some or all loans, and that like it's an investment that you make in your future. That's how I choose to see it. For me, I know by taking out loans now, I'm able to afford an education at a really good school, and then that will pay off in the future in terms of like the jobs that I get, the income that I make. I'll be able to take care of my family and pay off those loans eventually. So I think one advice I will give here is if you know you're going to go to grad school, so you want to go to like medical school, law school, anything after your bachelor's degree, try your best to keep your loans down during undergrad, during college, right? And if that means going to a school that gives you a really large financial aid offer, do that. If it means applying to a ton of scholarships, do that. Because what you don't want to do is have like, I don't know, $60,000-$70,000 worth of loans from your undergrad, and then you go to grad school and then you accrue like $50,000-$60,000 more, because then it just keeps adding up on top of each other. So as much as you can, not save, but as much as you can get free money from your schools right now, it will help you in the future when you decide to go to a grad school and you have to take out loans, basically. I don't know if anyone else wants to add on to your personal experiences with grad schools or loans and things like that. Because I didn't take out loans in undergrad, so I don't really know.
I'm not there yet. I'm about to be, so I'm kind of scared. But you did give some good advice there. But thank you so much, Arabi, for all the wisdom that you dropped for us. I know even me that's even still in college now benefit a lot from everything that you said. And I hope y'all all benefit. Definitely check out First Gen Empower, check out their website, follow them on Instagram at First Gen Empowerment. There's so many resources, all free and all there for you. Yeah, she just put in the chat, so feel free to check it out and reach out to Arabi if you have any questions, you guys. But yes, thank you so much, Arabi. We're gonna move along. We might end later than 9, not too late, like 12 a.m. or something, but like we might end like a little later, just letting y'all know, because we just had such a great conversation. So just letting y'all know in advance or whatever, but we're gonna get into everything. But yeah, we have our next wonderful speaker here, which, oh, that's a little bit, but yeah. Sachi, you could feel free to introduce this one.
Sure, of course. Also, thank you again, Arabe. So, Jazabel is a mental health advocate. She is obviously also a student, or was a student, so she understands the experience of being a student and what that can do to your mental health, positive, negative, and managing that. And I think that's a really important topic that, again, us as a generation are starting to have a better conversation about. But there's still a lot more that we could do and we could learn. And Jazabel dedicates her time in Becoming a Sunflower podcast, which you guys will see a link to in the virtual swag bag. And she gives a lot of tips and tricks and guidance on how to manage your mental health. I feel like in general, but particularly in the context of this conversation for students. So we're gonna have another panel-like discussion, just like the last one, with Rachel and Jadwa. And yeah, something for your mind.
Thank you.
Jezebel, thank you so much for being here. So excited to have you.
Thank you for having me, and hello, everyone.
We're gonna get into these questions. First, I wanted to just ask, just an experience type of question. You recently graduated from college. Congratulations to that, by the way.
Thank you.
And just wanted to ask, like, how was your mental health during college?
I want to say that I didn't start experiencing like the very worst of my anxiety until I got to college. But especially now that my senior year was during COVID and it was like a big transition, we were working from home. But I remember being very overwhelmed freshman year because it was a big change in environment, and that alone can affect one's mental state. It can bring all types of feelings of anxiety. And so I was getting out of class late. I was also a full-time worker as well as being a full-time student. So all of that combined was very, very overwhelming. But what I did manage to do early on gracefully was be able to budget my time so that I wasn't breaking overnight. I wasn't, losing sleep, losing hair. I was still stressed, of course, but I was able to get in deadlines for papers, assignments, and even try to fit in some time for studying. So one thing that did help was time management. And I can say that now coming out of college, I feel very, very good. I feel like my mental health over the years has gradually improved because as the years went on, I learned different tools for myself, and I feel I'm finally in a place where I can share it to students and young generations and people that are just going through it, because I think that whether we like to admit it or not, we're all just going through it.
Yep, that's literally right. Like that's been my motto for the past few weeks. So I totally relate. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad you made it to the place you are now to be able to share your experience. That definitely a lot of strength. Wanted to ask, when you were in college, like how did you manage your stress? Because stress is definitely present in college for sure. I could speak firsthand. Were there any practices that you used that helped you manage them?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found helpful was I used to buy planners, but I never ended up using them. So like every year I would get very motivated and like I would get those cute little 2017, 2018 books, and they just went empty all year long. So I found that the most simple thing was just simply using my phone and writing down notes on what I wanted to do during the week. So like if I knew I had, for example, an assignment that was due on Wednesday and it's Monday, I would let myself have that 2 day in advance so that I could work on whatever I need. And if there's still time that I need to perfect or try and get that final edits in, then I would always have tomorrow. Because one thing I noticed was um, a lot of people were in like the habit of just doing things like 2 hours before an assignment was due, just like playing with all types of risks. And I didn't want that to be me because I had work the next day. And I, of course, didn't want to miss the deadlines because if you are in college, we know that deadlines are everything. Like, if you don't have a professor that's willing to give you a second chance without deducting points, if there even is a second chance, you know that once you miss that deadline, you miss that deadline. So, just spacing out that time, writing down what it is that I wanted to do, needed to do, um, trying to envision like a calendar for myself based on like if I knew financial aid was going to be due again, or if I knew that I had to go do my schedule in advance so that I wasn't, enrolling so late that I no longer had space to enter the classes that I needed. Um, so there was that. Definitely getting sleep, enough sleep, making time for naps. Even I know that we live in a generation where so many of us feel intimidated by just taking time to lay down and watch Netflix, just doing nothing sometimes. So I really did find that just having time to wind down was very important for me, because you can't just keep running on E, you need that energy. You need to definitely have a well balanced diet, especially if you have morning classes. Without breakfast, I felt like I was going to probably pass out. So, definitely making time to have well balanced meals and even snacks if I had to crunch on something during class, because our body needs that fuel, right? So, that, and then as college went on and then the pandemic started to hit us, one thing that did really help too was I joined this group chat with another fellow student, and she basically challenged all of us to do a mile a day, whether it was walking, running, and then we also had like these workouts going on. So I found that movement was essential for everything, and it's still something that I do now. Once I finish my work from home, I go outside, I do a mile or so, and just try and incorporate different forms of movement, so that I could remove that stagnant energy that was going on, especially when we're sitting at home working in our chairs. Like, I'm literally glued to my chair in my kitchen all day long. So just making sure that I'm getting in that movement too was really important. And I started feeling better. Like, the more I sweat, the more I felt I was releasing stress. I was like keeping my mind occupied and just motivated to keep on finding more and more habits to feel this way, right? Because it's like when people do drugs, right? They get that adrenaline, but when you really find a practice of self-care, you also get that adrenaline, and like you kind of just feel like you can't do anything without it because it's so essential. The body needs that. We need breath, we need breaks, we need rest and food and nutrition. So definitely a self-care routine.
Oh yeah, for sure. Self-care is key. Like just listening to your body, I think that's something to
Mhm.
end on just now. Like is super important. You're a human being before you're a student, before you're an employee. So yes, definitely
Absolutely.
self-care, taking care of your body is key. I did
Definitely.
also want to ask, this is also I think this is pretty relevant because it is midterm season right now and a lot of things are happening.
Mhm.
Like, how did you stay motivated? Because like motivation is not just only physical, it's mental. Like your mind has to
Yeah.
be willing to study for you to start studying, or be willing to exercise to start exercising. So how do you like keep your motivation going when you have a lot going on?
So while I was in college, what actually kept me really, really motivated was my passion. So I can backtrack a little bit and talk about how I even got to college, right? So when I was in high school, no one thought I was going to graduate high school. I got through this phase where all I wanted to do was sleep. I was going through issues at school, I was going through issues at home, And I didn't want to do school. I didn't want to do life even. So it got to a point where they were, getting ready for me to drop out and make plan Bs. But I reached 10th grade, like mid 10th grade, and I decided, you know what, something I've always wanted to do was help people, and I see that right now I need help. So one thing I'm going to do is really get myself together. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do what it takes because, if I don't at least graduate high school, then I really don't know what I'm going to do with my life. So through that, pushing myself to kind of just make it to class, right? I was doing the work before. I just wasn't going to school. So just getting myself to get to class, do the work like I was doing, helped me get a full ride to college. Mind you, I didn't think that I was even going to go to college. So once I got that full ride, which covered books, tuition, fees, I gracefully graduated with zero debt other than, my car and stuff. But I didn't have to pay for college. I didn't have to do anything but just remain a good student. And I knew that my mom was never going to be able to afford to send me off to college. So really just keeping that scholarship once I actually got to Mercy College, where I graduated from, was my motivation at first, because people really took the time to invest in my future. So I deserve nothing more than to just give them what they deserve too, because I felt like I wasn't in a position to really just have all of this given to me, So I owed it to my donors for giving me that scholarship money. And then I owed it to myself to really just pull myself out of this funk that I was in and do what I said I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I wanted to study social work. So I got into the program and I kept on going. And even now, when I get a little discouraged, I just remind myself that I'm here for so much more. Like, of course, I'm here for myself and everything that I do for me, but there's something more than me. So when it comes to waking up every day, it's not just about me, but the people that I want to inspire, the people that I want to bring with me on my success, and the people that deserve to see me excel because they didn't have those opportunities, like my mom, my grandma, some of my aunts. So just always reminding yourself of your purpose, what you're passionate about, and just what you want. What do you want to do while you're here? We don't have a lot of time, so we really just have to think about what it is that we want to do every waking moment that we're here, whether it's something small, make someone's day. If that's your goal, that's your goal. But just always finding something bigger in everything.
Wow, that was so powerful.
Of
Thank you so much for sharing that.
course.
I have one last question, but while I'm doing that, feel free, anybody, put their questions in the chat. Any questions you have about mental health, so we could do our little Q&A. Well, I'm going to ask my last question, and that is just resources, like where mental health resource, where can people find resources to better take care of themselves mentally, or what, and also like maybe daily habits that they could instill on themselves, better improve their mental health.
Yeah, just start small. If you have to just write down 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning to just keep you going for the day, do that. If you need to listen to 3 songs in the morning that uplift your spirits, do that. Just, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant, right? When we talk about, eating better, it doesn't have to be, I need to have organic and like full course meals. No, it's just making better choices for yourself, for your body, right? What ingredients am I putting in my body? What kind of meals am I putting together? Am I going to opt for a bag of chips, or am I going to go for maybe a smoothie? And then like, even with exercise, right? I do 15 minutes Pilates, 3 to 5 times a week. And just that alone, like, is amazing. Just going outside and walking is enough, right? We don't need to do so much to feel that great. So just start small, definitely. And as far as resources, in addition to the podcast, on the podcast page, which I'll put in the chat, I do have a lot of different resources there that you can follow. I also work with a mental health nonprofit here in my hometown of Yonkers. It's called Que Pasó Latinx, and we have like a hotline. So if anyone wants to give us a call, we can help you get access to therapy, or find different resources for you, such as a hotline maybe that you can call. There's things that we have where you can text, right? And you could just simply reach out to someone in the crisis line or the suicide hotline. So there's a bunch of different numbers, a bunch of different places that you can go. But the most important thing is knowing that there are places, there are resources, right? Because when we're going through something difficult, it's really hard to think that anyone out there in the world cares. But I promise you that there's so many people in the world that are dedicating their lives to helping individuals that need the help, and they're out there, they're willing to help, whether therapy is for you or it's not. It was mentioned earlier, right? Anyone can benefit from that. And if you're not a therapy person, then maybe you just need to talk to a friend, or someone that can hear you and understand, right? So just knowing that help is always available, whether it's professionally or not, is key.
Thank you so much. Like, yeah, thank you so much. Like, it just reminded me, like, wow, those resources are out there, and I could definitely tap into them. So thank you so
Definitely.
much. I don't know, Sachi, do you want to ask the questions, or do you see the question in the chat as well?
Yeah. What do I do if mental health support doesn't help? Mental health support meaning like a therapist, or
I'm gonna assume that they meant more like like I don't know, friends, or just like walking and going outside and like cooking dinner for yourself, or like cleaning
Mhm.
your room, if that doesn't feel like it's helping, or like
Yeah.
mental health support activities. Like,
Yeah. I
yeah.
feel like I should have mentioned earlier that, of course, the practices that work for me may not work for you, right? Because we're all unique and we all have different needs and desires. So I would just encourage anyone to try again, right? If there's something that doesn't work out for you, then try something new. Pick up a paintbrush and see what comes on paper and out of your mind, and see how that makes you feel. Just prioritize pleasure in anything that you do, right? It doesn't have to be like a sexual thing when we talk about pleasure. It's just feeling good about what you do, feeling good about the choices that you make. And if you happen to run across maybe a therapist that you don't feel is helping you, then don't be afraid to, let them know, hey, this is not working, and then go search for a new therapist, because everyone has different perspectives. Everyone has a different view on um, life, even, everyone studies differently, they process differently. Um, so definitely just keep on searching for something that works specifically for you, and just don't give up, because it's kind of like dating when we think about like therapy and stuff like that. It's like, going through all of these different people until we find what fits and what feels right for us. So same thing with our self-care practices, right? Just figuring it out as you go. What you might like now, you may decide next month, hey, I'm kind of bored of that, let me try something new. Or this workout's kind of boring, let me go try sport, or let me go try something else. So definitely, because even now, like if I get bored running or walking, then I'll tell myself, it's okay if I stay home and just do a stretch or just do nothing at all, right? So never feel forced in the routine that you build for yourself. Make sure that what you're doing is fun, like something that you look forward to, not something that you dread, because that's just going to make you feel worse. I hope that was helpful.
No, that was a word. Thank you, Jezebel. Thank you
Of
so much.
course.
Y'all feel free to check her out. Her podcast, Becoming a Sunflower, on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify. It's so good. It doesn't take too much of your time. You could be just taking a shower, making breakfast or something, and listening to it. I'm telling you, all the tips and tricks and like just the amazing things she shares on there is very beautiful and powerful. So feel free to check that out. And que pa- que pas que paso Latinx, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I am not. But yeah.
That's okay. And
check them out.
I hope that no one gets discouraged by the Latinx term. Just our goal is raising awareness for mental health and getting our support for people in our community. But it's not limited to any one of the Latinx population. When we think about community, we think about diversity. We think about everyone that's here today, everyone that we, live around, grow up around. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me through the podcast page. You can reach out to us on that hotline, whatever you feel is best, but definitely, just reach out, even if you just want to say hi.
Thank you so much. And they're also on social media, on Instagram at Becoming a Sunflower. So check them out. But thank you so much. That was very powerful, everything you said. And I hope everyone here just really took that to heart and took some of that advice. Because no matter where you are, we all need mental health advice. So thank you so much, Jezebel.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. We are now going to move on to the college fair portion, but we're going to have Sachi talk a little bit about Insight just for a little bit, and then we'll move on to the college fair.
Thank you.
Because your org is so amazing. You have to share.
I appreciate you, Rachel. And hopefully y'all were all here. If you weren't here yesterday, I'm sorry you missed out. Like that's definitely a you. We had a great conversation yesterday and we got to hear a little bit about Rachel and College for the Culture and all the awesome work that she's doing. But Insight, obviously we co-hosted this with College for the Culture, which since this is our last day, we're going to close after today. It's been a pleasure working with you, Rachel, as always, our second collaboration and our first year of doing this event. So thank you all for coming with us. But Insight is private tutoring and educational consulting. We do personalized one-on-one tutoring for K through early college, and we tutor in every subject. And beyond just tutoring, integrating a lot of different study skills and mental health practices into teaching you how to advance in education. So it's not just about, let me just do this worksheet well, or let me get a B on a test. It's about making you have a personal relationship with your education and grow in it and find ways that you enjoy it. And that will make you a better and more well-rounded and more productive member of society, which we all should be, understanding the world at large and what's around us and how science, math, English, anything integrate with our day-to-day life, because you use all of these things every day. When you send a text message, it's English. When you're trying to figure out how much you have for groceries, that's math. When we're talking about politics or health in the news, that's history. Like everything is related. And we're here to give you resources, whether that's you follow our social media and you answer a lightning round every week and practice for your SAT, ACT, college math, English, science, chemistry, we do them all. Or it's you do a private session with us, whether you join us on Discord and you just join the conversation in general and make friends and connect. That's all a part of the educational process. And that's what we're here for. So we're happy to help co-host this event that is focusing on educating you guys on how to be more integrated with your flow from high school to college or finish college strong, whatever it is that you need diversity and diversity for. And we want to be a part of making sure that the educational aspects for you are covered. So if anybody needs help with school and you don't know where to start or don't know where to go, definitely reach out to me and I'd love to talk to you about it. But yeah.
Good. Thank you so much, Sachi. Oh, y'all really have to check them out. Insight Agency. They're amazing. They make education fun. And we school can be a struggle sometimes. So definitely tap into them on social media at Uncover Insight. And also just check out their website for their agency in general. But y'all, we are arrived to the fun part of all this, the college fair. Just gonna share my screen so y'all can know the colleges we have for today. Yes, sir. So we have some new great colleges for y'all today. We have NYU, Harvard, Washington University in St. Louis, Berklee College of Music, USC, and Spelman once again. So yeah, that's the colleges we have for today. Is just like before, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna open the rooms right now, and you guys can just click on whatever room you want and join. Ask your questions, don't hold back. They're here for you. And feel free to reach out to them, if you have any questions. So yeah, enjoy. And if you need help, we're right here in the main room.
Rachel and I aren't going anywhere. We'll be right here. Enjoy the college fair, everybody.
Bye.
Also, don't forget to open your swag bag because there's cool stuff in there for you. And you want it. Like, you don't want to miss out on it. I promise you. I promise you. And the free parent guide, you guys could definitely share that with your parents. And it has a link to every speaker that we've had over the past 2 days.